I'm delighted that we in the United Nations Environment Programme, working with the Cologne University of Applied Sciences in Germany, are launching a massive open online course, or MOOC, on disasters and ecosystems, resilience in a changing climate. It's very exciting to see UNEP not only developing MOOCs as a new way to educate and inform, but also being one of the first UN agencies to do so. It's great to see online learning create new possibilities for the way we spread knowledge. There are no financial constraints, no visa restrictions, no entry barriers, no even age restrictions. More and more people around the world are waking up to the MOOC, and soon our children will be able to sign up for college courses out of sheer interest to learn, even before they reach the conventional age for enrolling in university or higher education institutions. This course comes at a time when we need innovative thinking and solutions more than ever. We are living in an era of rapid change and environmental change, for better and for worse. Already we are seeing the impacts of climate change, from sea level rise to more frequent and extreme events like hurricanes, heat waves and floods. At the same time, large-scale degradation of the environment is occurring in many parts of the world, making people even more vulnerable to disasters. A number of catastrophic events in our recent past have shown how environmental degradation exacerbates disaster risk. In 2011, we saw how the conversion of wetlands into industrial estates contributed to exacerbating the flooding in major cities like Bangkok. And then there was Hurricane Katrina, which struck the Louisiana coast in the United States in 2005. Degradation of barrier islands and marshlands in Louisiana worsened the devastating impacts felt by local communities, who 10 years later have yet to recover. I'm glad to see a shift in our understanding of how the environment can offer solutions to reduce disaster risk. Europe, which traditionally used engineered or concrete approaches to disaster risk reduction, now appreciates that working with nature can provide more economic benefits and lasting defenses against disasters. For example, the Making Space for Water policy, now being implemented in the Netherlands, the United Kingdom, Germany and France, works with nature rather than against it. During intense rainfall events, excess water is diverted into natural water channels, floodplains and other such green spaces in order to mitigate flooding. Better investment in wetlands is another area with significant potential for reducing disaster risk, adapting to climate change and building community resilience. Climate change is expected to increase the intensity of rainfall in many parts of Asia, and this will have impacts also on rice paddy cultivation, which is the lifeline of communities in this region. Preventing conversion of wetlands and working with flood-tolerant varieties of paddy are two clear ways to adapt to the impacts of climate change and reduce flood risks. We are already seeing such discussions in Pakistan and Thailand, as both countries depend heavily on agriculture and are already experiencing climate change impacts. More and more, we are seeing developing countries challenge the notion that ecosystem-based solutions are something that only rich countries can afford. When I was in Haiti for this year's World Environment Day celebrations, I was taken to a community-based tree nursery in Port Salut, located in the country's southwest. The seedlings in the nursery will be planted along the coastline and river channels and next to the public market, which will prevent riverbank erosion and protect livelihood assets and Port Salut's beaches from further coastal erosion. The seedlings were specifically selected, originating from the local area and eventually providing products that could also be utilized and harvested. As the trees grow, residents will continue to benefit both from these economic returns and from the disaster risk reduction benefits provided by these trees. The next step is to take these individual examples and the knowledge and experience to develop national policies in countries and communities and implement these approaches at a large scale to achieve significant impacts on the ground. Managing more carefully land use has been identified as one of the most effective approaches to disaster risk reduction. However, population pressure and demand for land have prevented its popularity in many countries. Brazil has worked around this problem by finding different uses for land located in hazard-prone areas, for instance by creating football fields, no surprise in Brazil, in the urban areas for recreation, but also to absorb floodwaters in the event of a major rainfall. Another one of our main challenges in proposing ecosystem-based disaster risk reduction to policymakers is that we are not able to provide an engineering design for ecosystem-based disaster risk reduction. Engineers who traditionally design conventional structures for disaster management, such as dikes and dams, can give mathematical formulations of heights and depths, volumes and areas, investments and returns. We are not yet at a point where we have such uniform standards when it comes to ecosystem restoration and rehabilitation, bioengineering or indeed green engineering. As this topic is taken up by the university system, I'm confident that the evidence base of ecosystem-based disaster risk reduction will be translated into building codes and guidance notes. In that sense, by introducing this course en masse, we are hoping to generate a new cadre of professionals who will enrich the field by documenting more evidence, conducting new research, and promoting large-scale implementation of ecosystem-based disaster risk reduction. My sincere hope is for this MOOC to provoke and inspire such innovative ideas, starting with you. For many of you, the notion of ecosystems may as yet be something relatively abstract. It may seem more related to the realm of biology and nature resources management. Yet at the heart of it is an evolving understanding of how we value ecosystems. The notion of value is often associated with something that can be very subjective. We value a beautiful wetland or a forest ecosystem, but more and more we are also finding that we are able to attribute values both in an economic or disaster risk reduction sense that gives an expanded understanding of this value. It also speaks to the fact that in our modern era of development, ecosystem services have been little understood, very often attributed no value in our economic system or system of national accounts, and therefore are left essentially with a zero value when it comes to planning decisions. Looking at the value of ecosystems through the lens of disaster risk reduction, climate change, but also water security and protecting settlements from natural disasters, be it in terms of avalanches or be it in terms of tsunamis, we have learned a great deal about the extraordinary value that ecosystems provide to us. I hope that through this MOOC, we will have contributed to both exciting you and interesting you in a notion that will define much of the future of the development that we will see in the 21st century.